Welcome to this edition of Inside Greeley. So growing up, my mom always pushed with me that it was important to follow a budget. So I got that allowance, figured out how I was going to spend it, and then tried to follow it as best I could. And she tried to hold me accountable. Well, believe it or not, that carries over into the adult world. And here at the City of Greeley, what we call that is budgeting. And here today to tell us about the city's budget and that process that has happened over the whole year here in 2023, we have Winna McLaren with us, who is the Communications and Engagement Director with the City of Greeley. Winna, great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so as I mentioned, city leadership, executive leadership has been very busy this year, setting up what our 2023, well, it's really not for 2023, it's for the future of Greeley over the next 5 years and sometimes beyond. But all that planning and everything has been led up to where we are now, which is the budget and what our future is going to look like. And that comes out to be around $546 million. Now, that's way bigger budget than I ever had to work with, I have to say. Thank goodness. But that takes a lot of planning. And so for our residents, why is it important for them to understand that budget and that process?
Right. Well, just like when you learned, we have to plan ahead for our future, and we have to do that by thinking through what finances, what resources are available to us. And then we have to align those dollars with what the community wants. And so making sure that we're budgeting for community goals and aspirations, and not just in the short term for 2024, but beyond. How do we think about 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road? So the budget is really a foundational piece of all of the work that happens in the community.
Yeah. Now, I have to say, when I hear the word budget, it's kind of like, wow, it seems overwhelming. But the one nice thing about it is that as city leadership has worked really hard to try to make that, malleable for residents, and so that they can better understand that. And there's been different ways that they've been working through that to try to get residents engaged and involved and understanding how those tax dollars are being spent, which is always very important. Before we get into how that's been happening, I would like to kind of hear some of those highlights that are in that 2024 budget, because that's the things that we're really going to be seeing out in the community.
Right. So our 2024 budget is, it's a building, right? So we have a foundational budget that takes care of the city services that everyone is familiar with and knows, everything from our public safety to our fire department. All of those essential services are always a foundational piece of our budget. Right. When we think about some of the growth that we have coming down the line, and when we think about some of the current, issues that we're trying to deal with and plan for, that's where we really get a lot of bang for our buck in our budget in terms of how we want to invest those resources. So in 24, we'll see 2 new departments, pretty well funded, our economic development department, as well as housing and homeless solutions. And those are 2 really important issues in our community right now. So we want to make sure we set those departments up for success. And then, as always, roads. We have to be able to create a community where people can get around in the ways that they want to move around, maintain those roads. And with the growth, we have to make sure that we're keeping up with the infrastructure needs of the community.
Yeah, and so that sounds simple enough, but we know that there's so much work behind that and prioritizing which road and when. And so there's a lot of detail into that and how that works. Now, recently, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, we held a Budget 101 webinar, which was an online virtual event where folks could come in and just learn more about what a budget is and how the city comes about that. But one exciting thing from that webinar was a chance and an opportunity to meet leadership, meet the directors and the leaders that are carrying this budget forward.
Yeah, that was a really great opportunity, I feel like, to hear from our department directors or city leadership or city manager's office, really the work and planning that has gone in to the budget to be thoughtful about how we do fund our future. And so we did hear from a number of our city leadership, not all of them. They were all there just in case the community had questions.
Sure.
And we want to have more opportunities where residents and business owners can interact with city leadership and hear from them more, so that this budget becomes even more a part of the community and how people want to shape it.
Yeah. Were there some things that stood out to you that you feel like those in attendance learned when they came out of that webinar?
Well, yeah, like I said, the headliners, if you will, of our 20 2024 budget, our Housing and Homeless Solutions Department, our Economic Development team that is growing, as well as our infrastructure. I think it's really interesting to kind of see how economic development might take shape. And so when we can get out there and talk to the residents about what kind of restaurants and retail do you want to see. And then, of course, housing and homeless solutions. We all know that that is, a hot topic in our community. So really making sure that we talk to the community about concerns that they have and how we're addressing them.
All right, and just to wrap up here, Winna, is there a way for folks to learn more about a lot of these projects and initiatives that are going to be happening over the next year or 2 or 3 or more? And also, if folks are interested in finding more about that budget, where can they look?
Yeah, so the great thing is we did record that budget webinar if you want to catch it afterwards at our YouTube channel. We also have a really in-depth look at everything that our 2024 budget encompasses in our 2024 budget book available online. And as always, we have our newsletters, our social media channels, and our website. But of course, you can reach out to any of the friendly faces here in the city for more.
All right. Well, Winna McLaren, Director with Communication and Engagement, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
All right. So make sure that you head on over to greeleygov.com/budget. You can check out that 2024 budget book that Winna mentioned. And also you can head over to the city's YouTube channel to check out the Your Money, Your City, Understanding How Your Dollars Shape the Future. So get engaged to learn more about the city's budget. Tell us what you want to see in our community as we continue to grow. And again, that's greeleygov.com/budget.